Hi everyone, I'm Shelly from There's No Place Like Home at redheadmom8.wordpress.com. Today is my first video in the Hidden Curriculum series. And the very first time that I actually ever heard about the hidden curriculum that exists in every single school across the nation was from Dumbing Us Down by John Taylor Gatto. And very quickly, I realized that this was not just some disgruntled ex-teacher talking about the school system. The hidden curriculum is a very real phenomena. I actually found that out because I have a family member who used to teach sociology at a nearby community college. And when I brought it up to her, she actually said to me, yeah, she said, I teach that in my sociology classes. And intrigued, I had a son who was actually going to another community college at the time, so I grabbed his sociology book, looked in the index. Sure enough, the hidden curriculum was there too. So that's what this entire series is going to be about. And each month I am going to bring you another aspect of this hidden curriculum that many, many parents don't realize are in the schools that their kids go to. And these lessons, there are 7 of them, and I'm actually going to be basing this on this John Taylor Gatto book. So I really recommend that you go get this book. I will link to it in the description box. But there are 7 lessons in the Hidden Curriculum series. So I'm going to be going through them lesson by lesson over the next several months. And we're going to be really getting deeply into what these lessons mean for children who are in the public school setting. So the first lesson that I am going to be addressing today is confusion. From the very beginning, schools teach children confusion. And if you're wondering what that means, take a look at the way that things are taught in the public school setting. They're taught in separate subjects. There are 45 to 50-minute periods in which they have to stop and move on to something completely different. Sometimes even the very same classes in themselves don't have any sort of cohesion. And it is meant to be taught that way. And you know what? You might hear people, especially in those sociology classes in school, they're going to say that this hidden curriculum is unintentional. Very often when you look up what the hidden curriculum is, they will say that it is an unintentional byproduct of the public education system. But if you really delve deeply into the history of compulsory schooling, you will find that it is actually based on the Prussian model. The Prussians actually came up with this model so that they could create a citizenry of obedient soldiers, obedient citizens, and they had it worked out to a T. And I think we all know how well that worked out for them. So here we are in the US, and our founders of the compulsory school system, they took that Prussian model, which was calculated. It's not a mistake that confusion is being taught, because what is being taught in schools is all about memorization. Nothing has any sort of connection to itself. Memorization in itself is not learning. It is not deep learning. It is not learning that helps kids to make sense of the world and to learn how to interact with people around them and to know just how things are in the real world. If you take a look at, for example, and I'm going to take some examples from his book, babies who are learning to talk and who are learning how to walk. There are a system of skills that these babies or toddlers start learning in order. It's a natural progression that gets them to the point where they are talking or where they are walking. And all of these skills are connected with each other because they all build up one on the other to get to that ultimate goal. And if you even think of it, making a Thanksgiving dinner, everything that occurs while making that dinner, again, is connected. There is meaning for it. There is a reason for you to do each and every one of these things. That is not what is taught in schools. If you take a look at the subjects that are taught in public schools and very many private schools, they have nothing to do with one another. Kids may be learning about U.S. history in one class and astronomy in another class. They might be learning about poetry in yet another class, and then math in another class that has absolutely no connection to the astronomy that they're learning. Because if you take a look at it, depending on how deeply they are into the astronomy, there is some math that could be included in those astronomy lessons. But are those going to be the lessons they're learning in math? Absolutely not. That is never going to happen. You will not see that happen. Because again, schooling is not about teaching kids to understand how things are connected. It is to keep them distracted. You know, just like the television. You know, you've got commercials going on all the time. Even with social media, there's constantly ads that pop up. Yes, even in my own videos, there are constantly ads that pop up. And then on top of that, with like Facebook and Instagram, they just have these little snippets of everybody's life, just like scrolling through. There is no concentration on anything anymore. And a lot of that begins with being conditioned in the public school setting, waiting for that bell to ring at the end of each class. You know, how can you possibly be really, really interested in something? How can you give something your all if you know that in just a few minutes' time, you're going to be expected to drop everything, move on, and start doing something else that has nothing to do with it? And, you know, I was actually thinking about this because it seems to me that our public education system has really upped the ante on teaching confusion in the public education system. I just repeated myself, but yeah, they upped the ante on teaching confusion now. Because let's take a look at this. Let's look at Common Core. I think that most parents who have kids in school will at least admit the fact that it is confusing. It is teaching these kids confusion. Children who once were excellent at math are now being taught an entirely new way to do math, and the same students are now struggling. These Common Core math problems, for example, they're asking kids how to explain how 2 + 2 can possibly equal 5. And what they are doing is they are no longer about right or wrong answers. And again, I'm talking about math. Yes, there are always right or wrong answers in math, but that's not what Common Core teaches. Common Core teaches that it's okay if you get the answer wrong, as long as you can show a way that makes sense that you got to that answer. That is what they are teaching in schools. Confusion. Let's move on to some of the other things that they are teaching kids as young as kindergarten. They are teaching total confusion when it comes to human sexuality, when it comes to the fact that they are now telling kids as young as 5 that they can choose whether they want to be boys or girls. And, you know, up until this point, we have always had science backing up the fact that male and female, you know, come in either XY for male or XX chromosomes. And that is something that you normally weren't taught until high school, even if you learned it, because it was a given that boys were boys and girls were girls, and it's however you were born. That is not what they're teaching kids. They are teaching these children confusion. And you know, along with that whole, it's called gender dysphoria. What comes along with that confusion about who they actually are? Very high rates of depression, high rates of suicide. And, you know, so what are they doing then? Telling kids it's okay for you to transition. There are some parents who are out there even telling kids who are, again, very young, that it's okay for them to start taking hormones to become the opposite gender. Kids as young as like 9 are being given these hormones to become the opposite gender because it's supposed to help them. But if you look at studies, the statistics don't change. The statistics are the same before these surgeries happen and after. Depression and suicide are at the highest rates for these groups of people. They are being introduced to these things in the school setting. Yes, and now it's on TV, it's in movies, it's everywhere. But you know, you have these impressionable children learning about these things in the public school setting. Kids look up to their teachers. A lot of them idolize their teachers and they think that their teachers can do no wrong. You are doing irreparable damage when you are confusing children about who they were born as. So that to me is just the ultimate culmination of confusion that you can teach to kids. It starts out with just teaching them confusion and how they learn things and how nothing sticks together. And it has now graduated up into this level where I'm almost afraid to see where this level of confusion goes next. But I'm going to reiterate the fact to you that this confusion that they are teaching in the hidden curriculum, this confusion is taught across the board. It is taught in the poorest schools up to the wealthiest of schools. It might be brought about in different ways because some schools have access to more expensive curriculum than others, but the underlying lesson to all of this curriculum starts with confusion. So I hope that this sheds some light on one aspect of the hidden curriculum in the compulsory school setting that, again, is very real. Next month, I will be bringing you another installment in this series. And again, I highly recommend that you get this book. I will link it in the bottom. And if you like this video, I would love if you would give it a thumbs up. And I hope you have a great day.